Hey, what's up, everybody? This is the Dean of Fantasy Football back here on the Blitz Sports Media channel, talking fantasy football. And specifically today, we are talking about QB tier ranking. That's right. I went ahead and tiered all of the projected week one starters for this upcoming NFL season and to show you how you should look at them for fantasy purposes. So let's dive right into it as we start at the very top. This is the elite class, and leading things off is going to be Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens. That's right. Lamar has been a phenom in fantasy ever since he got the starting job in Baltimore. He does incredible things with his legs, and believe it or not, he continues to improve his passing game. So Lamar Jackson right here to kick things off in this tier list. And next is going to be the God's gift of fantasy football, and that's Josh Allen. Now listen, Josh Allen is elite at both running and passing. Now, Lamar, there's no one that runs better than Lamar Jackson. Like I said, he's improving his passing game. But for Josh Allen, he does everything. So that puts him right at the top of the fantasy quarterback class. A huge advantage when you go into each week as Josh Allen as your QB1. And finally, to round it off is the newcomer. It's Jaden Daniels. Listen, Daniels bursted onto the scene last year, brought the Commanders almost to the Super Bowl. It was absolutely impressive, but along there, he also finished as QB5 in his rookie year. Listen, I look at Jaden Daniels as like legit baby of Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. He can run. He has a strong arm. He may not be as mobile as Lamar or maybe a strong enough arm as Josh Allen, but he's still elite at both of those skill sets that makes him a threat for fantasy football. So those are my top three, as I call the elite. Let's go back all the way down now to the bottom, the very poopy bottom of the barrel, stay away class that I have. And starting things off, it's in Pittsburgh. You see what's going on. As of right now, there is no Aaron Rodgers sighting. He's not in that QB room. And even if he was, I'm not sure if I would have any stock in him. So you have Mason Rudolph or Will Howard, who they drafted, seemed like they were really excited to have him. If we're talking redrafts, I am staying away from the Pittsburgh Steelers QB room. And moving on to Cleveland in division. Right now they got Pickett, they got Flacco, and then they got two rookies in Shador and Dylan Gabriel. From the looks of it, it seems like either Pickett or Flacco are going to get the week one start until maybe one of these rookies are ready to go. But even then, I think when you're thinking about the Cleveland Browns, think about their skill players, not their quarterbacks. Stay away from that QB room. Next is going to be the Colts. This is a really disappointing one. You talk about two guys, Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones, who Daniel Jones now is brought into Indy for competition for Anthony Richardson is crazy because there was a blimp moment in history where you thought, hey, these two may be viable fantasy quarterbacks, but they have both fallen off a cliff, and I wouldn't want any part of the Colts quarterback room whatsoever this year, so do not even think about it. And lastly, it's in New Orleans with the Saints. Derek Carr just announced his retirement, so that leaves Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shough. Rattler did okay, I guess, not really, but nothing you really want to put any stock in for the upcoming season. And for Tyler Shough, I just think it's, even if he gets a start, it's something that, hey, you got to show me before I put any type of draft capital into you. So I would stay away from these four teams. No risk, nothing's worth taking any of these guys whatsoever. Now let's go back to the top. These are the very good grouping of quarterbacks. Just missed the elite by this close of a hair. And I'll start off with a guy that just missed it for me, and that's Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, I know, is a great fantasy quarterback. He is on the Super Bowl winning Philadelphia Eagles. He finished as QB6 last year. But when we talk about elite, I put that class on guys that can do something at the highest level, and that's both running and throwing. For Jalen Hurts, his run game is more for NFL purposes, safety purposes. He's not going to cut back inside for extra yards or dive into the end zone for a touchdown. his mobile game is when he gets pressured, he gets rolled out and he'll pick up those extra yards. Maybe we get that first down, pokes the ball out, but nothing extra to where it can win you a fantasy week. And listen, he still has got the tush push that gets in the touchdowns. He was, top 2 in rushing touchdowns last year. That's going to continue. He's on a great team. So not knocking Jalen Hurts, but for me, he's in the very good category. Next is QB2 from last year. That's Joseph Burrow. Listen, the Bengals are such a head scratcher. It's a team that should be Super Bowl contenders every year. But for now, they're just fantasy impact players. The Bengals brought back both his weapons, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Joe Burrow's arm literally ignites him to be such a good fantasy football player, to where him being in your QB spot gives you an advantage over majority of your team. And I love Joe Burrow moving forward. I mean, you talk about last year with injuries, a weird year for the Bengals, but also in 2022 finished as QB4. So he's very familiar with the top class of QBs in fantasy. And last but not least, it's the future GOAT. It's Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs. I think a lot of people put him into that class last year and was very disappointed about his performance. Finished as QB11, which isn't bad, but unfortunately, when you're going to draft season and he's in that same category as Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, and he doesn't perform to that standard, it sucks. But I will give you some hope about Patrick Mahomes. In 2023 is QB8, right? And the year before that, 2022, coming off of a Super Bowl loss, QB1 in fantasy. So Patrick Mahomes definitely primed to have a bounce back and get back into fantasy graces for everybody. Next is exciting good football. All right. This may not be the very, very good, right, of it. They might not be the elite, but these are guys that you can put at your quarterback spot in your lineup and know that you're going to get some exciting football out of them, and hopefully which leads to points. First off is going to be Baker Mayfield. I mean, what a surprise he has been for fantasy. Coming off of a QB3 year in Tampa, finally finding his home with the Buccaneers. And you look around him. I mean, this dude's a dog. Yes, he can scramble. He's a guy that probably will try to run over a linebacker for extra yards. Probably shouldn't. But the weapons that he has all around him, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, who's returning, Jalen McMillan, who is a nice add-in, who I know people are down now because they drafted Emeka Egbuka, another weapon. They also have Cade Otton, the backfield with Bucky Irvin. Like, he is primed to continue this success in fantasy. So Baker Mayfield headlines my exciting good football for this tiers. Next is going to be Bo Nix, bursted on the scene. People were very confused on how he would perform, but I think Sean Payton found his quarterback. Bo Nix finished as QB9 last year. Phenomenal. Got the Broncos to the playoffs, and they're continuing to build around him. Super excited to see what year 2 holds for Bo Nix. I think this is a guy, when you get later in your drafts and you see all those elite, those very goods, this is a guy where can get you excited to put in the lineup every single week. So I love Bo Nix this year. Moving next is going to be to the Chargers quarterback, Justin Herbert. Now, Herbert's been a confusing one. As soon as you hype up Justin Herbert, he brings it back down. But as soon as you're over him, he comes right back up. People are very confused on how he would do with Jim Harbaugh coming in. Finished as QB12. So, hey, listen, that's a starter in majority of fantasy leagues, right? But I believe so much in Jim Harbaugh and this offense to continue to grow, to continue to believe in Justin Herbert. They're just going to be a balanced offense. So he's going to throw the ball a ton, right? But I know that backfield with now Marion Hampton, Najee Harris. Do not fret. Do not shy away from Justin Herbert. He's still a great fantasy value. And next is Kyler Murray. I had stock in Kyler Murray everywhere, and boy, was it a true roller coaster. There would be weeks where he would be one of the best. He had one top 1 finish last year. He was in the top 5 times, but there was other weeks where you're like, what happened? He disappeared. The confusing connection with him and Marvin Harrison Jr., right? It was so confusing, but he does bring that spark that at any given week, he can give you 35 plus. Okay. I'm a true believer that I think this is going to be a bounce back year for him and Marv at just a duo. But remember, he still has Trey McBride, who just got extensions. A great run game with James Conner, still a great veteran balance. So don't count out Kyler Murray coming off a QB 10 year. These guys are exciting, good football. So, it looks like there's another one here. Who could that be? It's Justin Fields. That's right. The new starting quarterback for the New York Jets is Justin Fields. And let me tell you something. A lot of people have probably had high hopes, but Justin Fields is exciting football. When he gets a starting job, he is a top tier, went too far. A top tier fantasy quarterback. He does it mainly just with his legs. We talk about in 2022, he had the starting job in Chicago. He was QB7. Okay. There is potential here that Justin Fields comes out to the Jets, surprises everybody, and maybe does it with his legs, but then that arm strength, that arm talent, with the comfortability with his college wide receiver and Garrett Wilson. They just drafted Mason Taylor that with Justin Fields, tight end games improve. So I would look out for Justin Fields this year. This one that you may pass on in your drafts and may regret it coming to the end of the season. Next, these are the guys. We're going to go back to the bottom. Not worth the risk at all. All right. To start things off, we're going to stay in New York. It's Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, coming off a year with the Pittsburgh Steelers, took over the job from Justin Fields there, got the Steelers to the playoffs, did not perform whatsoever in the playoffs. Now he comes to the Giants, and we all know what happened, right? The Giants go ahead and trade back into the first round, get Jackson Dart. So for Russell Wilson, he may have some good games. It's nothing that's going to blow up your fantasy scores, right? But the thing is, it's not worth the risk because we don't know how long he's going to be in there. Will Jackson Dart start this year, or will Russell Wilson ride it out? We don't know. So for me, Russell Wilson, not worth the risk this year. And as we move on, we go to a guy that just had a new change of scenery, Geno Smith. Geno Smith has had a resurgence in his career. It's been phenomenal to see, but now he's with the Raiders and Pete Carroll. Listen, Pete Carroll, not known to having a fantasy impact on quarterbacks. They just drafted Ashton Genty with the 6th overall pick. So you think that's going to be the primary focus of their game? A lot of run-heavy offensive schemes. I know they have Brock Bowers. They have Jacoby Myers. It's just not enough for me. Geno Smith does not seem like the guy you want to draft on your roster. Maybe a waiver wire pickup against a poor defense. So for me, Geno Smith, not worth it. And lastly, it's Tua Tagovailoa. This is unfortunate because Tua and the entire offense from the Dolphins exploded onto the scenes like 2 years ago, gave Tyreek Hill a wide receiver 1 type season. And for Tua, unfortunately, it just comes down to the injuries. He's had to deal with a lot of head trauma, and he is put in a different category than everyone else. I would never tell you to not draft somebody because of injuries, because the NFL is just so physical that everyone is, that everyone could get injured at a point. For Tua, a normal hit may have longer lasting effects. A questionable return may lead into a out for 3 to 4 weeks. So for me, I don't want to take the risk on Tua, because if I'm taking him at a certain point in the draft and he's out for a significant time, then that might just kill my whole entire fantasy season. Moving on, these are guys that you can rely on. These are the constant producers in the NFL, and you'll see here a theme is, first off, it's Jared Goff from the Detroit Lions. He's on the high-powered offense. The Lions have been working on all cylinders. Goff is coming off a QB 8 year, and he just does it with his arm. I mean, look at these past years: QB 8 in 2024, QB 7 in 2023, and QB 11 in 2022. He's not a runner. He's a pocket passer, and he still is putting up numbers to where he's in the top 10 every year for fantasy. If you are a person that wants to build out your lineup with, elite receivers, good running backs, right? Jared Goff is a nice cherry on top of a beautiful lineup that you could have going into your fantasy seasons. Next is Brock Purdy. Hand up, I was never a Brock Purdy believer, but looking into the numbers, this guy is consistent. He's on a great system. I know last year was kind of a weird year for the 49ers. I expect them to bounce back. I don't think too much of the loss of Deebo Samuel. They still have Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle. I think Ricky Pearsall is going to have a great year. Brandon Ayuk should be coming back. For Brock Purdy, it's a guy that I think you can really rely on week in and week out. Finishes QB 13. Like I said, weird year, but still there. 2023 QB 6. Brock Purdy can get things done, and he could be a real nice asset on a well-rounded fantasy roster. And finally, it's the future Hall of Famer, Matthew Stafford. Stafford has been around this league for a long time, and he stayed in this league for a long time from his arm. You look at what the projections are for maybe your first round. You see Puka Nacua is a guy that's projected mid-early first rounds, right? Why is that? It's because he has a guy like Matthew Stafford throwing him the ball. And for Stafford, you look around, they improved a lot of his weapons. Cooper Kupp, yes, he is gone, but they get Devontae Adams. Overall, way better receiver, right? They went and drafted Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon to be their new tight end. Nice, young, healthy tight end. And then that backfield is no joke either. So I love Matthew Stafford to be a perfect QB2 option, or even a guy that you can keep in your back pocket just for spot starts, or if your starter has kind of having an injury problem. Like, he's a great, viable fantasy guy to probably, most likely, he'll be streamed, but the guy that you can definitely rely on. Next is going to be, let's see what he's got. All right. These are guys that I'm not totally sold on. I'm somewhat optimistic, a little pessimistic at some, but these are guys I need to see prove it on the field. And first is the first overall pick of this past draft, and that's Cam Ward. Listen, he's going to get the snaps. He's going to be the starter of week 1 for the Tennessee Titans. They loved him. He's not getting a lot of coverage because that pick was locked in for so long. And there's not much around him. I think that Calvin Ridley is a great veteran number 1 to have. They signed Tyler Lockett as well to be kind of a nice security blanket, right? They have a great run game. Tight end's great. But for Cam Ward, I just want to see it first. His ability to deal with chaos is great. I think that's what got him here. His arm strength has been what got him to be the first overall pick, but I need to see consistency before I am going to draft Cam Ward onto my fantasy team. Next is Michael Penix. So kind of a complete opposite. This is a guy that we were shocked that the Falcons drafted just a year ago after signing Kirk Cousins, but they're already making that switch. Kirk Cousins is out, Michael Penix is in, and he has a lot to work with. You think about Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts in the backfield of Bijan Robinson. There's a lot of room for success for Michael Penix, but I'm not sure what kind of fantasy quarterback he will be. My projection is probably just going to be a lot of arm throwing. It's going to be relying on passing touchdowns and yardage. So I'm not sure if I want to take that risk so late in the drafts on a guy that I haven't seen too much film about. Next is going to be Drake Maye. Now, this is a guy that I think has the ability to get into that exciting, good football if he played all year for the Patriots. Patriots weren't good at all. They're making these adjustments. Mike Vrabel comes in, whole new regime, and they're trying to help him. They get Stephon Diggs as a signing in the offseason. They drafted Kyle Williams. They drafted Trayvon Henderson, who I absolutely love. So there's a lot of good in front of Drake Maye, especially that offensive line they are investing in as well. So there's a lot of optimism for Drake Maye this year to have his breakout season and to put himself on the scene. But for me, I think there's a lot of other guys I would take to be safer. And for Drake Maye, it's more of a, hey, let's see what he's got, right? And finally, it's JJ McCarthy of the Minnesota Vikings. This is a guy that we weren't sure if he was going to be the week 1 starter or not between him and Darnold. He goes down with injury, out for the season, and then we see Darnold win 14 games with the Minnesota Vikings. So there is a really great scenario for JJ McCarthy to walk in. He's going to be throwing to one of the best wide receivers in JJ. He's going to throw to one of the best tight ends in TJ. And then he has Jordan Addison as well. And then Aaron Jones in the backfield. So a lot of optimism looking forward for JJ McCarthy, but it's always going to be about how he plays. And I'm not totally sold on it. I don't think a lot of people were when he was coming out of the draft. So, like I said, he's in this category. Let's see what he's got. Next, these are two guys that I think are primed for a huge bounce back year. And starting off is going to be Texans quarterback CJ Stroud. Now, I think CJ Stroud got kind of the low end of the stick last year. He was catapulted into like the elite, the very good, but I don't think he was there just yet. They didn't have protection for him. They have a lot of weapons, but I think this is the year he bounces back. He's going to be a little bit lower in ADP. He's got Nico Collins still. They drafted both Iowa State guys to be new targets for him. So I think that CJ Stroud is looking for a great 2025 season ahead. Next is a former first overall pick. That's Caleb Williams. Coming into this season, this is a guy that's got everything in front of him. They bolster up that offensive line. You know, you have DJ Moore, Romo Dunze, Luther Burden, Colston Loveland, even Cole Kmet that can be a veteran tight end option as well. And backfield with DeAndre Swift. And to top it all off, they get the hot new offensive coordinator to be their coach in Ben Johnson. So Caleb Williams is definitely primed to have a great season. Williams finished as QB 16 right in front of CJ Stroud. But don't forget, Caleb Williams had a number one performance of quarterbacks in this past season, finished in the top 5 4 times. I think Caleb Williams has the ability to be a top fantasy quarterback this season. So be on the lookout for the Bears. And then we have, don't forget, these are guys that you are probably overthinking, looking past, you know, especially when you think about the elite and the very good. But these are guys that can be definitely week in, week out starters for you and give you success. First is Jordan Love, guy that's actually grouped right around CJ Stroud and Caleb Williams. That's where he finished as QB 18. Listen, the Packers are always going to be the Packers. They're going to win football games. They're going to score points. And I know that wide receiver room is kind of confusing because there's not an elite number one. They drafted Matthew Golden, who I think is going to just fit in well with them. But there's a lot of targets there. And for Jordan Love, he has a lot of opportunities to throw some touchdowns. I think also with the resurgence and the appearance of Tucker Kraft at tight end, he has a lot of opportunities to have a really good year. So don't forget about Jordan Love. Next is Dak Prescott. I mean, this is a guy that you definitely should not forget. Dak Prescott coming off the injury last year, and Cowboys have either you think they're going to be Super Bowl champions or they're going to have an awful year. You cannot forget about Dak Prescott and his ability. They did away with Mike McCarthy. They did an internal hire, so there's not going to be any change in scheme. They added George Pickens to the weaponry for Dak Prescott. And for Dak Prescott, every year he has played 16 plus games. He has been in fantasy a top 10 quarterback. So if he comes back healthy, still throwing a CD Lamb, Jake Ferguson, all those guys, he has the ability to be a top fantasy quarterback for you this year. So don't forget about Dak. And lastly, the guy that I actually almost forgot when I was making this, it's Sam Darnold. 14 wins for the Vikings. I know who he had to throw to in JJ. I know he had to throw to Jordan Addison, but now he's coming to the Seahawks, and he has Cooper Kupp, who's still a nice veteran, who I also say I'm going to stay away from, but JSN, emerging star. This can work. The Seahawks are no joke. They are no slouch. Sam Darnold can be a viable quarterback for you this year. Finished as QB7 last year, so do not forget about Sammy D and what he did last year. And finally, these are my two sleepers, my two favorite guys of the season. And here we go. Boom. First off, we have Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence can be in line for a phenomenal fantasy year for the Jaguars. You think about the new head coach, Liam Cohen, coming over. His offensive mind has sprung him up into a head coaching job in such a short amount of time. He has Brian Thomas Jr. That backfield is loaded with talent. Brenton Strange, who is a sleeper of the tight ends, can explode here as well. I love Trevor Lawrence. Still only 25 years old. He was QB 10 in 2023, QB 6 in 2022. So coming back here, fully healthy now with also Travis Hunter to add to his weapon tree as well. I love the opportunity for Trevor Lawrence to be back at the top for fantasy quarterbacks. And next for me, this is really my guy, Bryce Young. The Panthers have done so much to build around Bryce Young to improve this roster. And Bryce Young has had a shaky start. Last year, first 2 weeks, he was QB 32. That's dead last. Okay. Then Andy Dalton gets starts, whatever. He does okay. He's on the bench. Bryce Young, Dalton gets in an accident. Bryce Young gets reinstated as starter. From week 8 to the final week, he becomes QB 12. And in that time, he is only third in rushing touchdowns behind Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen. That is elite company, people. So I'm looking out for Bryce Young this year. Got another new weapon in Ted McMillan. Bryce Young, a huge sleeper for this year at the quarterback position. So that's my tier list. That is where I think about these quarterbacks this coming season. Let me know what you think in the comments, and make sure to follow, like, subscribe, all you can do. I'm the Dean of Fantasy Football right here on Blitz Sports Media.